I thought I knew my wife. After 4 years of marriage, I believed I could read Amber like an open book. Every expression, every gesture, every tear that rolled down her cheek. I was wrong about everything. My name is Thomas Stone. I'm 32, a financial analyst who built his career on reading patterns, spotting inconsistencies, and trusting the numbers. Numbers don't lie, people do. And the person who lied to me most convincingly was sleeping next to me every night for 4 years. Amber doesn't work, never has since we got married. She calls herself a homemaker, though our house is always spotless because we have a cleaning service twice a week. She spends her days at yoga classes, lunch dates with friends, and shopping trips that I fund without question. I never minded. I make good money, and I love taking care of her. I thought that's what husbands did. Before we married, her father insisted on a prenuptial agreement. David Hughes is a divorce attorney, one of the most ruthless in the city, and he'd seen too many marriages end in financial warfare. The prenup he drafted was 23 pages of legal protection, but one clause stood out like a neon sign. Infidelity voids all asset claims. Everything I owned before marriage, everything I earned during marriage, every investment, every account if either spouse committed adultery, they forfeited any claim to marital assets. At the time, I thought it was unnecessarily harsh. Amber cried when her father presented it, saying it felt like he didn't trust us. I held her hand and signed it anyway, thinking we'd never need such protection. We were in love. We were building something real. We were different. How naive I was. Last Tuesday evening, Amber approached me in our kitchen with tears streaming down her face. She looked devastated, shoulders shaking, hands trembling as she gripped a tissue. My first instinct was to protect her, to fix whatever was wrong. "Thomas," she whispered, her voice breaking. "It's my mom. She's really sick. The doctors think it might be cancer. She needs me to come stay with her for a week, maybe longer. I'm so sorry, but I have to go." My heart broke for her. Amber's mother, Linda, had always been kind to me. The thought of her battling cancer made my stomach turn. I pulled Amber into my arms without hesitation. "Of course you have to go," I said, stroking her hair. "Take all the time you need. I'll handle everything here." "You're so good to me," she sobbed against my chest. "I don't deserve you. Those words should have been a warning." Instead, I held her tighter. I watched her pack that night, offering to help, but she insisted she could manage. She moved efficiently through our bedroom, folding clothes with practiced precision. When I suggested visiting during the week to bring food or support, she shook her head. "I need to focus completely on Mom right now," she replied. "You understand, don't you?" "I can't be distracted," I understood. Or I thought I did. The next morning, I kissed her goodbye in our driveway. She looked beautiful even in distress. Designer jeans, perfect makeup despite the tears, her blonde hair pulled back in a way that made her look younger. She kissed me back, her lips soft and familiar. "I love you," she said. "I love you too." "Call me tonight?" I asked. "Of course," she answered. I watched her drive away in the BMW I'd bought her for our anniversary, thinking about what a supportive husband I was. How I'd manage the house alone, maybe surprise her midweek with her favorite Thai takeout. I felt proud of myself for being understanding, for putting her family first. For 2 days, everything seemed normal. I went to work, came home to an empty house, ordered pizza, and caught up on shows Amber didn't like. She texted me throughout each day, sweet messages about how exhausting caregiving was, how grateful she was for my support, how much she missed me. Mom's sleeping now. "Thinking of you? Long day at the hospital? Love you. Wish you were here to hold me." I responded with encouragement, love, promises that we'd get through this together. I had no idea that while I was typing those messages, she was 3 blocks from her mother's house, living a completely different life. On Saturday afternoon, I made a decision that would destroy everything I thought I knew about my marriage. I wanted to surprise Amber and her mother with flowers and food. I wanted to be the kind of son-in-law who showed up when things got tough. I packed her favorite flowers in the passenger seat, rehearsing what I'd say when I knocked on her mother's door. I had no idea I was about to knock on the door of my own devastation. The drive to Linda's house took 12 minutes. I'd made the trip dozens of times over the years for Sunday dinners, holiday gatherings, birthday celebrations. The suburban street looked exactly as it always did. Well-maintained lawns, mature oak trees, the kind of neighborhood where nothing dramatic ever happened. I parked in Linda's driveway behind her silver Honda and grabbed the flowers and takeout bags. Thai food from Amber's favorite restaurant, chrysanthemums from the florist near my office. I felt good about myself, proud to be the kind of husband who showed up unannounced to help family through crisis. When Linda opened the front door, my world tilted sideways. She looked perfect. Healthy color in her cheeks, carefully applied makeup, wearing gardening clothes with soil under her fingernails. She was holding a watering can, clearly in the middle of tending to her plants. Not the appearance of someone battling cancer, not someone who needed round-the-clock care. "Thomas," she said, surprised but pleased. "What a wonderful surprise. Come in, come in." My stomach dropped, but I tried to rationalize what I was seeing. Maybe she was having a good day. Maybe the treatments were working better than expected. "How are you feeling?" I asked carefully, following her into the living room. "Feeling? I feel wonderful," she replied. "The weather's been perfect for my garden, and I just finished reorganizing my craft room." "Why do you ask?" The takeout bag suddenly felt impossibly heavy in my hands. Amber said, "She said you were sick. That you might have cancer?" Linda's face shifted from confusion to alarm. "Cancer? Thomas, I haven't been sick." "I just had my annual checkup last month. Everything came back perfect." "Where did you get the idea that I have cancer?" The flowers slipped from my hand, scattering across her hardwood floor. "Amber's been staying with you this week. She said you needed her help because you were so sick." "Thomas, I haven't seen Amber in over a month," she said, her voice growing tense. "She certainly hasn't been staying here. What's going on?" The room started spinning. I gripped the back of Linda's couch to steady myself. She left Tuesday. She's been texting me every day about taking care of you." Linda's expression darkened as understanding dawned. "Oh my God, Thomas, sit down. Let me get you some water." But I was already pulling out my phone, my hands shaking as I opened our location-sharing app. Amber and I had set it up years ago after she got lost during a road trip. We kept it active for emergencies, for peace of mind when one of us was traveling. The little blue dot showed Amber's location. Not at her mother's house. 3 blocks away, at an address I didn't recognize. "Linda," I said, my voice hoarse, "I need you to see something." She looked at my phone screen, then at me. Her face went pale, then flushed with anger. "That little bitch," she whispered. Then louder, "That lying, cheating little woman." Even through my shock, I was surprised to hear Linda curse. In 4 years, I'd never heard her say anything stronger than darn. "I'm going there," I said, standing up. "Like hell you're going alone," Linda replied, grabbing her purse. "I'm coming with you." The 3-block drive felt like an eternity. Linda sat in my passenger seat, radiating fury. "I knew something was wrong with that girl," she muttered. "The way she's been avoiding family dinners, always having excuses. And she hasn't called me in weeks." I pulled over 2 houses down from the address, my heart hammering so violently I could hear it in my ears. The house was a modest 2-story with a red front door and an overgrown lawn. Amber's BMW was parked in the driveway. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone and opened the camera app. Something in my analytical mind kicked in, the part that always documented everything, that believed in evidence and proof. I propped the phone on my dashboard, angled it toward the house, and hit record. "What are you doing?" Linda asked. "Getting evidence," I answered. "I'm going to need evidence." Linda looked at me with something that might have been pride. "You're smarter than I gave you credit for." She got out first and marched up to the front door like a woman on a mission. I followed, my legs feeling disconnected from my body. Linda raised her fist and pounded on the red door. After a moment, it opened. Amber stood there wearing nothing but a silk robe, her hair wet from a recent shower. When she saw her mother, her face went through a series of expressions: confusion, surprise, and then dawning horror as she realized what was happening. "Mom, what are you—" "How did you—" she stammered. Then I stepped into view. Amber's face went white. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. The silk robe suddenly seemed inadequate, pathetic. She pulled it tighter around herself, but there was no hiding what was obvious. "Thomas," she stammered. "I can explain. This isn't... You don't understand." "Actually," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. "I think I understand perfectly." The living room was a disaster. Empty wine bottles, scattered clothes, evidence of the life she'd been living while I believed her lies. But it was the sounds from the bedroom that made my hands curl into fists. Someone moving around, the creak of floorboards, the rustle of someone hastily getting dressed. Amber followed my gaze and panic flooded her features. "Thomas, please," she pleaded. "Let me explain. This just happened. It doesn't mean anything." But I was already walking toward the bedroom, Linda right behind me, and Amber trailing after us with increasingly desperate protests. I pushed open the bedroom door and found him. The man in the bedroom was younger than me, maybe 28, with the kind of build that comes from regular gym attendance rather than real work. He was frantically pulling on his jeans, his expensive shirt thrown across a chair that probably cost more than most people make in a week. When he saw me, his face went white. 4 years of marriage, 4 years of trust, of building a life together, of believing in something that never existed. It all crystallized into this moment. This pathetic scene of scattered clothes and guilty faces and the unmistakable smell of intimacy in the air. I hit him once, hard across the jaw. He went down immediately, blood streaming from his mouth onto the hardwood floor. He stayed down, groaning, holding his face. "That's for my marriage," I said. I didn't hit him again. This wasn't about brutality or losing control. It was about one clean, decisive action, marking the end of one phase of my life and the beginning of another. Behind me, I heard Linda's voice, low and venomous. "You selfish, disgusting little h-." I turned to see Amber's mother standing in the doorway, staring at her daughter with complete disgust. "Do you have any idea what you've destroyed?" she continued. "This man has been nothing but good to you. He's worked his ass off to give you everything you wanted, and this is how you repay him?" "Mom, please," Amber started. "Don't you dare mom me," Linda snapped. "You've been lying to everyone, using my supposed illness as cover for your affairs. How long has this been going on?" Amber's eyes darted between her mother and me. "It's not. This just happened." "I was confused. How long?" Linda repeated. The man on the floor groaned again. "Jesus Christ, I think my jaw is broken." I looked down at him with cold satisfaction. "You're lucky that's all that's broken." Amber tried to grab my arm as I moved toward the door. "Thomas, please," she begged. "We can work through this. We can go to counseling. This was just one mistake." I stopped and looked at her. Really looked at her. The silk robe, the wet hair, the flushed skin, the expensive jewelry I'd bought her, the designer clothes scattered across another man's bedroom floor. "One mistake?" I said quietly. "This wasn't a mistake, Amber. Mistakes are accidents. This was a choice. A series of choices. You chose to lie to me about your mother. You chose to pack a bag and leave our house. You chose to come here. You chose to take off your clothes. You chose to betray everything we built together. But I love you," she said desperately. "I love you, Thomas. This doesn't change that?" "No," I replied. "You love what I provide. You love the house and the car and the credit cards and the lifestyle. But you don't love me. If you loved me, you wouldn't be here." I walked out of the bedroom, through the disaster of the living room and out the front door. Amber followed, the silk robe barely covering her as she stumbled after me in bare feet. "Thomas, wait!" she called out. "Please, just wait." I got in my car and rolled down the window as she approached. Linda was already in the passenger seat, her face still tight with anger. "Where are you going?" Amber asked, tears streaming down her face now. "To see my lawyer," I answered. "Your lawyer?" "Thomas, no," she protested. "We can fix this. We don't need lawyers. We can go to therapy. We can work through this. I'll do anything." "You should have thought about that before you decided to be intimate with him," I said, nodding toward the house. Amber flinched like I'd slapped her. "Don't talk like that. That's not like you." "You're right," I replied, starting the engine. "The old me would have stood here and listened to your excuses. The old me would have believed your lies and tried to fix this. But the old me died about 10 minutes ago." I put the car in drive, but Amber grabbed the door handle. "Thomas, please," she begged. "I'm begging you. Don't do this. Do what? Hold you accountable for your choices? I asked. Don't leave me with nothing, she whispered. I looked at her for a long moment. You left yourself with nothing the moment you walked into that house. I drove away with Amber standing in the street behind me, still in that ridiculous robe, watching her world collapse in real time. Linda was quiet for several blocks. Finally, she spoke. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I raised someone capable of this. It's not your fault, I assured her. She's going to lose everything, isn't she? The prenup, she said. Yeah, she's going to lose everything, I confirmed. Linda nodded grimly. Good. I dropped her at her house and continued driving toward downtown, toward Richard's office. Richard was the best divorce attorney I knew, aggressive, thorough, and he worked Saturdays for clients in crisis. By the time I reached his office, I wasn't grieving anymore. I was planning. Richard's office occupied the top floor of a glass tower downtown, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. On weekends, the building was mostly empty, but Richard had given me his personal cell number years ago when I'd helped him restructure his investment portfolio. When I called him from Linda's driveway, he'd agreed to meet me within the hour. I found him in his conference room wearing jeans and a polo shirt, the most casual I'd ever seen him. Richard was in his 50s with silver hair and the kind of sharp eyes that made opposing counsel nervous. He specialized in high-asset divorces and his track record was legendary. Thomas, he said, standing to shake my hand. You sounded like hell on the phone. What's going on? I pulled out my phone and set it on the conference table. I need you to watch something, I said. The video was 23 minutes long. Richard watched it twice, his expression growing darker with each viewing. He saw Linda opening the door in perfect health, heard Amber's stammering attempts to explain, witnessed my confrontation with the affair partner, and listened to Amber's desperate pleas as I drove away. Jesus Christ, he said when it finished. Textbook infidelity. How long do you think this has been going on? I don't know, I replied. Could be weeks, could be months, maybe longer. Richard leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled. Tell me about the prenup. David Hughes wrote it. 23 pages, but the infidelity clause is on page 12. It's ironclad, I explained. Richard's eyebrows shot up. David Hughes? The divorce attorney? Amber's father, I confirmed. A slow smile spread across Richard's face. Oh, this is beautiful. David Hughes' own daughter violating a prenup that he wrote. The irony is exquisite. He pulled out a legal pad and started making notes. Thomas, I need you to understand something. With this video evidence and that prenup, this isn't going to be a divorce. This is going to be an execution. Over the next hour, Richard outlined my options. File immediately for divorce on grounds of adultery. Freeze joint accounts. Change locks. Document everything. The prenup was airtight. Amber would leave the marriage with exactly what she'd brought into it, which was essentially nothing. How fast can we move? I asked. Fast, he answered. With video evidence this clear, I can have papers filed Monday morning. She'll be served by Tuesday. If she contests it, we'll bury her in court. But honestly, with her father being a divorce attorney, I doubt she'll fight. He'll read the prenup, watch your video, and tell her to sign whatever we put in front of her. I left Richard's office with a plan and a sense of cold purpose. My first stop was the locksmith. Jerry's 24-hour lock service was exactly what it sounded like. A guy named Jerry who changed locks at all hours for people in crisis. Divorce, breakups, roommate disputes, family emergencies. He'd seen it all, and he didn't ask questions. Jerry met me at my house by 6 p.m. He was a man in his 60s with calloused hands and the matter-of-fact demeanor of someone who'd helped people secure their homes for 30 years. How many locks we talking about? He asked, examining my front door. All of them. Front door, back door, garage, side gate. Everything, I replied. Jerry nodded. Locks and keys for the whole house will run you about $800. You want me to install a security system while I'm here? Yes, I answered. Smart man. I've seen too many people skip that step and regret it later, he said. While Jerry worked, I went through the house systematically, removing Amber's access to everything that mattered. I called our bank and froze the joint accounts, leaving only my personal checking active. I contacted the credit card companies and had her removed as an authorized user. I called the utilities and took her name off everything. Each call was a small victory, a piece of my life being secured against further damage. The bank representative was professional but curious. "Is this due to a separation, Mr. Stone?" she asked. "Divorce," I said simply. "I'm sorry to hear that." "We'll have the accounts frozen within the hour," she replied. By midnight, Jerry had finished installing new deadbolts, a security system, and even a video doorbell. Every entry point was secured, every key changed. The house was mine again. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in our bed, my bed now, staring at the ceiling and thinking about the past 4 years. When had the affair started? How many lies had I believed? Were there others before this one? Had anything about our marriage been real? But beneath the hurt and betrayal was something harder: determination. I wasn't going to be the victim in this story. I wasn't going to be the naive husband who got taken for everything. I was going to be the one who walked away with dignity and everything I'd worked for. At 7 a.m., I positioned myself at the bedroom window that overlooked our driveway. I didn't have to wait long. Amber's BMW pulled in at 7:23 a.m. I watched her get out of the car, moving slowly like someone who hadn't slept. She looked terrible. Hair unwashed, wearing the same clothes from yesterday, her face puffy from crying. She walked to the front door and tried her key. It didn't work. She tried it again, jiggling the handle, pressing harder. Panic began to set in as she realized something fundamental had changed. She tried the back door, then the garage, then the side gate. Every lock had been changed, every entry point secured against her. Finally, she saw me through the bedroom window. Our eyes met across the distance, and I watched understanding dawn on her face. This wasn't anger that would pass. This wasn't a cooling-off period. This was the end. She ran to the front door and pounded on it, screaming my name. The sound echoed through the neighborhood, probably waking our retired neighbors. I let the moment stretch out, watching her realize how completely her world had changed. Then I went downstairs, smoothed my shirt, and prepared to hand her the divorce papers. When I opened the door and handed her the divorce papers, she looked at them like they were written in a foreign language. Then her eyes met mine and she understood. This wasn't anger. This was the end. Amber stood in my doorway holding the divorce papers, her face completely drained of color. The official documents seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds in her trembling hands. For several seconds, she just stared at them, as if reading them again might change what they said. "Thomas," she whispered, "you can't be serious." "I've never been more serious about anything in my life," I replied. She pushed past me into the house, my house, and I let her. Better to have this conversation inside than provide entertainment for the neighbors. She moved to the living room like a sleepwalker, still clutching the papers. "Sit down," I said. "We need to talk." "I don't want to sit down," she protested. "I want you to tear up these papers and let me explain." "There's nothing to explain, Amber. I saw everything I needed to see," I answered. What followed were the longest 4 hours of my life. Amber cycled through every emotional manipulation tactic in existence. She cried, saying she loved me and had made one mistake. I corrected her coldly. "One affair, Amber. One massive lie about your dying mother. 1 week of deception. Stop calling it a mistake," I said. She screamed at me, saying I was being cruel and unreasonable. That the affair partner made her feel alive in ways I never could. That our marriage had been dead for months, and I was too blind to see it. Something snapped inside me when she said that. "You want to feel alive?" I said, my voice deadly calm. "Go be alive with him. See how alive you feel when you're working minimum wage and living in a studio apartment. See how alive you feel when you have to choose between groceries and gas money. See how long your affair partner sticks around when you can't afford to split the dinner check. That's when it really hit her. The money. The lifestyle. Everything she was about to lose. The prenup," she whispered, finally understanding. "Oh God, the prenup." I explained it to her piece by piece, watching her face crumble with each detail. "No claim to the house. No claim to my investments. No claim to my retirement accounts. No alimony. No cars, no jewelry, no shared assets of any kind. But I don't have anything," she said desperately. "I don't have a job. I don't have savings. I don't have anywhere to go." You should have thought about that before you decided to cheat, I replied. She tried everything, begging, threatening, saying she'd hurt herself if I went through with this. She claimed she'd tell people I abused her, that I was controlling and manipulative. I kept my phone recording throughout the entire conversation. Richard had warned me she might try to create false accusations. My father, she said suddenly, her face going even whiter. Oh my God, my father is going to kill me. That's not my problem anymore, I answered. She fell to her knees then, literally begging. Please, Thomas, she pleaded. I'll do anything. I'll sign a postnup giving you even more protection. I'll get a job. I'll go to therapy. I'll cut off all contact with him. Please don't do this to me. I'm not doing anything to you, I said. You did this to yourself. By evening, she still wouldn't leave. She kept circling back to the same arguments, the same pleas, the same desperate attempts to change my mind. Finally, I called the police. I need someone removed from my property for trespassing, I told the dispatcher. 2 officers arrived within 20 minutes. They were professional but firm, explaining to Amber that she needed to leave immediately or face arrest. She looked at me with something between hatred and desperation as they escorted her to her car. This isn't over, she said. Yes, it is, I replied. After she left, I called Richard to update him. She knows about the prenup now. How do you think her father will react? David Hughes is a pragmatist, Richard said. He'll read the prenup he wrote, watch your video, and tell his daughter she's doomed. Excuse my language. Richard was right. Amber went straight to her parents' house that night. According to Linda, who called me the next day, David took one look at the divorce papers and pulled out his copy of our prenup. He read it twice, watched the video I'd sent to Richard, and delivered his verdict. You violated the infidelity clause, he told his daughter. You have no legal standing. Sign whatever Thomas's attorney puts in front of you and pray he doesn't sue you for adultery in a state that allows it. Amber's mother, Linda, wouldn't even speak to her. The woman who'd called her daughter a whore in that bedroom hadn't softened her position. If anything, learning about the fake cancer story had made her angrier. She's not welcome in this house, Linda told me over the phone. She made her choices. Now she can live with them. Within a week, I learned through mutual friends that Amber was living in a rundown apartment complex in one of the city's rougher neighborhoods. She'd taken a job at a retail store for $12 an hour, her first real job in 4 years. The affair partner dumped her within a month. Apparently, he'd only been interested while she had access to my resources and our comfortable lifestyle. A woman working retail and living paycheck to paycheck held no appeal for him. He said he wasn't ready for anything serious. My friend Jake told me after running into Amber at the grocery store. She looked like she'd been crying for weeks. I felt nothing when I heard that. Not satisfaction, not pity, nothing. She'd become irrelevant to my life, a closed chapter I had no interest in revisiting. The divorce was finalized in 6 weeks. A record, Richard told me proudly. I kept everything. She walked away with literally nothing. And somewhere in a retail store across town, she was learning what minimum wage felt like for the first time in her privileged life. The first 6 months after the divorce were about rebuilding myself from the ground up. I'd been married for 4 years, and before that, I'd been in a relationship with Amber for 2 years. 6 years of my life had revolved around someone who never really existed, at least not the way I thought she did. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a woman in her 50s who specialized in betrayal trauma. Twice a week, I sat in her comfortable office and learned to process what had happened without letting it poison my future. You're not responsible for her choices, Dr. Mitchell reminded me repeatedly, but you are responsible for how you move forward. The sessions helped me understand that my hurt was valid, my anger was justified, and my decision to protect myself was healthy. But they also helped me recognize that carrying that anger forever would only hurt me. I threw myself into work with renewed focus. Without the distraction of Amber's constant needs and social obligations, I had more time and energy for the career I'd built. Within 8 months, I earned a promotion to senior analyst with a substantial salary increase. I reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage. Men's nights, weekend golf games, dinners with colleagues. I remembered what it felt like to have relationships that didn't require constant emotional management. For the first time in years, I felt genuinely happy. 18 months after the divorce, I met Catherine Walsh at a work conference. She was a senior marketing director at a competing firm, intelligent and successful in her own right. What struck me immediately was how different she was from Amber. Catherine had her own career, her own money, her own life. She didn't need me. She wanted me. Our first few dates were revelatory. We talked about boundaries, past relationships, expectations for the future. Conversations I'd never had with Amber because I'd been too blinded by infatuation to ask the hard questions. I was married before, Catherine told me over dinner on our third date. It ended badly. He cheated, and I learned that trust has to be earned, not assumed. What did you do when you found out? I asked. I left. Immediately, she replied. No counseling, no second chances, no working it out. Some lines, once crossed, can't be uncrossed. I knew then that I was falling for someone who understood the value of self-respect. Catherine and I moved in together after dating for a year. 8 months later, we got engaged. This time, there was no prenup. Not because I was naive again, but because we'd built the kind of trust that didn't require legal protection. We'd seen each other handle stress, disappointment, conflict. We'd watched each other make choices and keep commitments. The relationship felt completely different from my marriage to Amber. Equal, authentic, built on reality instead of fantasy. During this period, I occasionally heard updates about Amber through mutual acquaintances. She was still working retail, still living in that rough neighborhood, still isolated from her family. She'd tried reaching out to me a few times. Apologetic emails that went straight to my spam folder, messages passed through friends that I ignored completely. Once, Jake told me she'd asked about me at a party. She wanted to know if you were seeing anyone, if you ever talked about her, if you seemed happy. What did you tell her? I asked. I told her you were engaged to a successful woman who actually deserves you, he replied. Jake said. Amber started crying when he said that. I felt nothing. The most surprising update came from an unexpected source. 2 years after the divorce, David Hughes, Amber's father, the attorney who'd written our prenup, reached out to me directly. He asked to meet for coffee, and my curiosity got the better of me. We met at a downtown cafe, and he looked like he'd aged a decade in 2 years. I wanted to apologize, he said without preamble, and to tell you that I respect how you handled everything. You don't need to apologize for your daughter's choices, I replied. Maybe not. But I raised her. Or failed to raise her properly, he said. You know, I've been practicing divorce law for 25 years. I've seen hundreds of prenups enforced, but watching my own prenup protect someone from my own daughter, it was validating in a painful way. Have you reconciled with her? I asked. David shook his head. She's called, sent letters, shown up at my office, but some things can't be forgiven. She didn't just betray you. She used her mother's supposed illness as cover for an affair. That level of manipulation. I don't know who raised that person, but it wasn't me. The fact that even her own father couldn't forgive her spoke volumes about how completely Amber had destroyed her own life. 2.5 years after signing divorce papers, Catherine and I were married in a small ceremony with close friends and family. It was everything my first wedding hadn't been: intimate, genuine, focused on the actual commitment rather than the spectacle. 4 years after the divorce, I was standing in an airport with Catherine, boarding a flight to Paris for our first wedding anniversary. We'd just bought a vacation home. My investments had more than doubled, and I'd been promoted again to senior management. As our plane taxied down the runway, I thought about the last update I'd heard about Amber. She was still working retail, still living alone, still estranged from her family. Her father had mentioned that she'd tried reaching out periodically over the years, but I'd never responded. There was nothing she could say that would change anything. Some lessons, apparently, take a lifetime to learn. 5 years after the divorce was finalized, I took inventory of my life from the first-class cabin of an Air France flight to Paris. Catherine was asleep beside me, her wedding ring catching the light as she shifted in her seat. We were returning from our first wedding anniversary trip, a week in Italy that had exceeded every expectation. The numbers told a story of recovery and growth. My career had flourished beyond anything I'd imagined during my marriage. Senior Vice President of Analytics, with a team of 12 analysts under my supervision. My salary had tripled. My investment portfolio had grown exponentially, helped by the fact that I no longer had someone bleeding. Money on unnecessary luxuries, Catherine. And I had just closed on a vacation home in the mountains, a place we'd both fallen in love with during a weekend skiing trip. Our life together was built on shared goals, mutual respect, and the kind of trust that comes from watching someone make good choices consistently over time. Through the inevitable small-town gossip network, I still heard occasional updates about Amber. 5 years later, she was still working retail, still living in that rough neighborhood, still isolated from her family. She'd tried reaching out periodically over the years, but I'd never responded. There was nothing she could say that would change anything. People often ask me if I regretted marrying Amber, if I wished I'd never met her. The question used to make me angry, but now I had a clear answer. Amber taught me exactly what I didn't want in a partner. She taught me that trust must be earned through consistent actions, not pretty words. Most importantly, she taught me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away from someone, because the person you love and the person they actually are aren't always the same thing. That evening, as we sat in our own living room unpacking souvenirs, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thomas, it's Amber. I know you probably won't read this, but I need you to know that I understand now what I lost. I understand what I destroyed. I'm sorry doesn't begin to cover it, but I'm sorry anyway. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be happy. I showed the message to Catherine. She read it and looked at me with raised eyebrows. Are you going to respond? She asked. I deleted the message without hesitation. There's nothing to say, I replied, because there wasn't. Amber's apology couldn't undo the choices she'd made or change the fact that she'd chosen temporary excitement over lasting love, and that choice had consequences. I'm grateful for that lesson, and I'm even more grateful that I don't have to keep learning it, because the person I am now, the one who walks away when necessary, who demands respect, who builds real trust, that person only exists because I refused to accept less than I deserved. Amber destroyed our marriage, but in doing so, she built someone stronger, and that's the only thank you she'll ever get from me. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.